This video is sponsored by Audible.com. Alright, man. I guess we doing this. Colin Kaepernick is about as polarizing a figure as we have in modern sports. Some see him as a hero, while others see him as the exact opposite. I haven't had a conversation about this whole situation yet that didn't get heated once I didn't fully 1,000,000,000% agree with something that the other person said. People seem to think it's blasphemous to have a nuanced opinion about anything. This video is an attempt that could fail miserably at actually summarizing Colin Kaepernick's entire story and offering an individual perspective on each thing. Now, I'm fully aware, which is why I avoided this for so long, this video could actually just piss off both sides of people. It's my hope that most people will realize that there's good and bad to every single person on this planet. There are no perfect men. So hopefully we watch this, maybe get a different perspective, and ultimately realize that we in this together, bro. Random segue. Christopher Columbus was heralded as an American hero when I was a kid. Wasn't until I got older that I realized dude was a tyrant, a murderer, and a trash individual from pretty much any moral standard. Still, people can push all that other stuff to the side and give this cat a holiday. And at least when I was a kid, which wasn't that long ago, plastered dude all throughout my history books. Why shouldn't today's heroes get the same treatment? Especially since it's much harder to hide things or alter history now because there's cameras everywhere and we're documenting everything. Colin Kaepernick's refusal to stand for the national anthem created a schism in the world of sports, with tons of players and fans being forced to choose sides. Everybody watching this video knows what Colin did, but what most don't realize is that this wasn't stemmed from one single event. Dude didn't wake up one day like, oh, I'm gonna take a knee, I'm gonna kill him with this one. No. This was the culmination of a lifelong search of self from a biracial kid who was adopted by a Caucasian family. That's right, just a man looking to connect with his roots. An incredibly common human thing, which is why sites like Ancestry.com are popping right now. The search led him deeper and deeper into a portion of history often ignored in this country. And if you weren't brought up in an environment where this got spread by word of mouth, it's pretty easy to miss a lot of the details. These details came back to smack Colin Kaepernick in the face when he was a college student. And his whole thing is the story of how he dealt with that. You may not agree with the way he did what he did, and you're entitled to that opinion, that's fair. But can we at least agree that something had to be done? And Colin showed the courage to try. I don't agree with every single move Cap has made, and we will get into that in this video, but I do agree with some of it. And I'm making this video today in an attempt to understand all of it. Now, I know that at this point, everybody's already chosen a side. Some people have left dislikes before even watching the intro of the video. I'm gonna say some things in the video that each side may not love, but I promise you, I do not mean any disrespect. I was born and raised in this country and I love it just like you. What I'm not gonna do is pretend that it's perfect. Also, I got love for Colin, same thing goes for him. I will not pretend that he is perfect in this video. This may be a lot to ask on the internet, but please try to control your emotion for just a bit and be reasonable as I point out flaws on both sides. If you disagree with anything I say, that's 10,000,000,000% cool, but let's be adults and try to keep it respectful. Hopefully you'll sit back, hear me out, and go on this journey with me. This is what happened to Colin Kaepernick. Cue the Wayne. Colin Rand Kaepernick was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin back in 1987 to a black father and a white mother. His parents were separated at the time and his mom was only 19. She felt that she couldn't give him the life that she wanted to give him. Therefore, she put him up for adoption. Dude was only a few weeks old when he was adopted by Rick and Teresa Kaepernick, who moved him to California when Colin was only 4 years old. So now, biracial Colin has two Caucasian parents. And the kids at Colin's school reminded him about this often. They would say things like it's impossible for the Kaepernicks to be his actual family, obviously due to his race. Kids can be hella cruel, bro, but we all been there. can't really judge him. The teasing started to fade into the background once Colin got into sports around age 8. He always had elite arm talent even as a 4th grader. And believe it or not, that same 4th grader wrote a letter saying this: "I hope I go to a good college in football, then go to the pros and play on the Niners or the Packers, even if they aren't good in 7 years." Dog, you talking about the law of attraction. As a high school senior, Colin was throwing a 90+ mile/hour fastball on the baseball field. In football, dude was first team all-district, all-conference, and all-academic, but his throwing motion and razor-thin frame turned college coaches away. Colin was 6'4", 170 pounds soaking wet, and seen as a raw prospect who would likely get injured at the next level. Fortunately, he attended a camp at Nevada who subsequently offered him a scholarship to play safety. The old too small to play quarterback but you can play safety trick, huh?
I'm not gonna fall for that shit.
By week 5 of his freshman year at Nevada, the starting quarterback got hurt. That's when Colin stepped in and threw for 384 yards and 4 touchdowns. Needless to say, the guy he replaced never got his starting job back. During his time in Nevada, Colin set several school records and became the first quarterback in D1 FBS history to pass for more than 10,000 yards and rush for more than 4,000 yards. Dude threw an unbelievable 84 touchdowns and ran for another 60. He put all them points on the board and only threw 24 picks. Colin had come into his own on the field, but he was still searching for himself off of it. Like many people who've been disconnected from their roots, he went in search of that connection. As a biracial kid adopted by Caucasian parents, you can understand the desire to connect with your origins. During his time in college, Nevada teammate and longtime Broncos linebacker Brandon Marshall, who now plays for the Raiders, put the idea into Colin's head about joining a fraternity. If you're looking for family or belonging, that's a good place to go. There, Colin found some solidarity, some brotherhood, and the connection that he had been searching for. See, Colin Kaepernick grew up in Turlock, California, where African Americans make up only 2% of the population, according to the census at least. So he was introduced to a lot during his college days, and it was heavy. Here's a quote from one of his Nevada teammates, John Bender. "I saw him transform, develop, whatever you want to call it. Finding an identity was big for him because in some aspects of life, he would get the racist treatment from white people because he was a black quarterback. And some people gave him the racist treatment on the other side because he was raised by a white family. So where does he fit in all of this?" Colin excelled as a student and graduated with a business degree. And by all accounts, he was a good dude and a stand-up guy. He once even had his family buy season tickets for a fan. She was a lady who used to attend all of Nevada's games with her husband. However, her husband had recently passed and she could no longer afford to come to the game. Nevada officials actually came out and said that was the first time they had to check to see if it was even legal under the NCAA's rules for a player to buy something for a fan. Obviously, it's usually the other way around. When he was 4th grade, Colin had written down his goal of playing for the 49ers one day, and in 2011, after a stellar college career, he did just that. For the 2011 NFL draft, the 49ers traded up to select Colin in the 2nd round. Dream achieved. But there was one more obstacle: a sturdy veteran named Alex Smith. Now with that, we're about to get into the part of the story that everybody's aware of. What most people are not aware of is that even as a rookie in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick was deep into African American studies. Connecting with his roots wasn't some fly-by-night thing. He joined the fraternity and that was it. No, this was ongoing. He'd read the autobiography of Malcolm X and books by James Baldwin and Maya Angelou and so on. He was piecing together the history of African Americans in this country in a way that it had not been taught to him. Again, I just want to drive this point home because Colin Kaepernick has been accused of kind of conveniently growing a conscience after he lost his starting job. As we can see, I'm talking rookie year. This is before the Super Bowl. This started in college. This is something that was ongoing. It persisted and it escalated. That's what actually happened. Late in Colin's 2nd season, Alex Smith went down with a concussion. Similar to the way it happened at Nevada, once Colin got that starting job, it was his for the foreseeable future. It wasn't a popular choice with everyone because again, Alex Smith was seen as a solid quarterback, game manager type, high passer rating, etc. He'd also helped get the Niners to the NFC Championship the year before. But Colin Kaepernick brought something else to the table: a huge arm and off the charts athleticism. People quickly realized it was the right choice when they saw how dynamic the 49ers had become. Colin helped lead them all the way to Super Bowl 47. He had to go through Aaron Rodgers and a really good Falcons team in order to get there. On the way, he set a single game playoff record for rushing yards by a QB. In Super Bowl 47, Colin Kaepernick threw for 300 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for another 62 yards on the ground and another touchdown. But down by 5 with around 2 minutes left in the game, after driving all the way down to the Ravens' 5-yard line, the 49ers couldn't get in. They ended up losing that game 34-31, and even though it was only his second season in the league, that would end up being the height of Cap's football career. Now, the very next season, he led the 49ers to a great 12-4 record, but they got ousted early in the playoffs. Regardless, Cap's popularity soared as he was deemed an anti-Manning quarterback. He was cool, he was tatted, dude was just a different breed of QB. This, as always, brings out a lot of haters, but there are a lot of people from the corners of society who are now being represented by an NFL quarterback. Check out this quote from Colin back in 2013. "I want to have a positive influence as much as I can. I've had people write me because of my tattoos. I had people write me because of my adoption. I've had people write me because they're biracial. I've had some people write me because their kids have heart defects. My mom had 2 boys who died of heart defects, which ultimately brought about my adoption. So to me, the more people you can touch, the more people you can influence in a positive way or inspire, the better." Colin was praised for that, but was quickly frowned upon when his birth mom reached out to him. The reason is because Cap had no interest in actually rekindling that relationship, at least at that time. He never actually knew his mom because he was only a few weeks old when he got adopted, and I have never been in that situation, but I can empathize and assume that you probably wouldn't want to reopen those childhood wounds. That's got to be a very difficult thing. Thinking back on it, that might have been a way to help him actually connect with his roots. I mean, that is your biological mom. But at least at that time, he wasn't ready to go down that road, and I damn sure can't judge him for that. It was around that same time that Kaepernick seemed like he really started to distrust the media. He had kind of grown tired of the dog and pony show, and it was really showing in his interviews. He was kind of seen as sulking or kind of always upset or just very, very short with the media. By 2014, things with the team started to fall apart as the 49ers went 8-8 and their coach Jim Harbaugh left to go coach Michigan in the college ranks. 2015 was even worse. Not only did Cap not vibe with the new coaching staff, he also started dating his girlfriend Nessa, who had previously dated 49ers teammate Aldon Smith. Obviously, that created some static in the locker room. Colin demanded a trade in 2015, but his timing couldn't have been worse. See, he was coming off a shoulder surgery, a knee procedure, and a thumb surgery, and he wasn't exactly coming off of his best season. So teams were wanting to buy low. See, it was during this time that a bruised and battered Kaepernick lost his job to Blaine Gabbert. See, Cap haters like to bring that up, but they never talk about the fact that he is coming off of 3 damn surgeries, bro. He had lost hella weight and he wasn't himself physically at that time. Back in 2016, Kaepernick was already doing kids camps and involved in several charities. He enrolled in a course on black representation at the University of California, Berkeley, drove an hour there and an hour back every day, was an active participant in class, took notes, sat up front, the whole 9. Again, this is obviously something he was serious about and passionate about. This is not something that he had to do. Here's a quote from his professor during that time. "People that trace our connection to UC Berkeley assume he became politicized in my class. But Colin came in aware, focused, well-read, and eager to learn. His decision was made on his own, from the heart. He came to me intellectually curious. The questions he asked me regarding my research, the lectures he attended, he was a sponge." Cap would frequently post to social media expressing sadness, anger, and pain caused by a string of police killings of African Americans during routine traffic stops, sometimes over something as simple as not wearing a seatbelt or forgetting a signal. It created even more outrage when those cops would usually get little to no punishment for taking people's lives in situations that definitely didn't cause for that type of force. Unlike most people, Colin actually looked to do something about it. He attempted to use his platform to bring attention to the situation that seemed like it was being ignored. We all know what came next. Despite his faults, and we'll get into some of those in a bit, I hold Colin Kaepernick in high reverence because of what he attempted to do. He sacrificed a lot in an attempt to bring attention to an ongoing problem in his country, something that has been complained about for literally my entire life. With that said, his strategy could have been better. See, the timing of the whole thing is not great. And as we've discussed, Cap started that journey to enlightenment back in college, and it ramped up every year since then. If it had reached its peak a little bit earlier before he was injured, or if he had waited a bit until after he was back good physically, I think that would have helped the situation. Here's why. Like we discussed, Colin was coming off 3 surgeries. He'd lost a lot of muscle mass and wasn't himself physically during that time. Because of that, he was more expendable than ever before. If you take everything else away, just physically as a player, his value was lower as an NFL quarterback than it had ever been before. Now, he still had value as a quarterback. All I'm saying is it was lower than it had been before. It was at the lowest point so far in his career. That takes away leverage. See what I'm saying? This allowed people to create a narrative saying that he was washed and he was only doing this because he was disgruntled that he lost his position. I feel like a little bit of research will quickly dispel that when you learn that he's been into this stuff since he was in college and he was coming off of 3 damn surgeries. But still, the timing of it give cats some ammunition to be able to start a narrative like that. I hope I'm clear here. All I'm saying is if he'd done it when he was more healthy, detractors would have had less ammunition to try to tear him down. That's literally all I'm saying. Since he was injured going into that season, he didn't dress out the first 2 preseason games. Now, Colin actually sat on the bench in protest both of the first 2 preseason games, but nobody noticed or thought anything of it because he wasn't in uniform. But when preseason game 3 rolled around, Colin was in full 49ers gear, and still he sat on the bench during the national anthem. The craziest thing happened. Nobody cared. Only one reporter, literally one reporter, Steve Weiss, even questioned him about the whole thing, okay? Here's what Colin Kaepernick had to say when questioned about it the very first time. "I'm not gonna stand up to show pride in a flag or a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder." Here's the issue. Damn near everybody completely ignored every single thing he said. People instead laser focused on the means by which he decided to protest. It's like somebody that been screaming that, yo, we're starving for like 3 years. Nobody pays any attention to it. Then you stand up to sing a song that says everybody eats. And then you finally say, you know what? I'm not gonna stand up for this song and say everybody eat until everybody gets something to eat. And then cats look at you and they'll say, oh damn, here's some food. They say, you said it then during the song? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, come on, I'm hungry. Anyway, the fact that some people laser focused in only on the way he did it and completely ignored the thing that he was trying to bring attention to, that in turn made the people he was protesting for feel like nobody actually cared what was going on out here in the streets. I feel like the total lack of acknowledgement of the actual issue really started to escalate things fast. And I'm super naive. I was sitting at home thinking that, oh no, they just, you know, somebody clipped the wrong part. They didn't actually hear what he said on why he did this whole thing. Because once that goes through and once everybody gets that, this whole thing goes away and we'll make some progress. No, it just kept escalating. It went up and up and up and up. In a perfect world, the people who were offended would say, yo, bro, that's not cool. Here's why. Here's why I'm offended. I got a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? In the future, let's not do that. But you got my attention. What were you saying? He then explains the situation. The offended party acknowledges, oh damn, that's absolutely terrible. Let's do something about it. Now the whole need for the disrespectful act, it's gone. You see what I'm saying? And obviously you can't snap your fingers and it's over just immediately, but acknowledge it and let's at least take some action toward the thing. And on Colin's side, he can apologize for the gesture only because it was not his intention to offend. It wasn't his intention to disrespect the flag. It wasn't his intention to disrespect the military. His intention was to bring attention to police brutality. If everybody dropped the outrage for half a second, both sides just have a conversation, we should be able to squash this as adults. Once again, because it was not his intention to disrespect the military, Colin decided to speak to a military veteran named Nate Boyer to find out what was the best and most respectful way to protest. Nate admitted in an interview that he too was upset initially, but he didn't let his emotions get the best of him. He attempted to understand the other side. So he penned an open letter. Colin looked at him and was like, okay, I'm also going to attempt to understand the other side. Now we got two grown-ups talking, trying to come to a compromise. Great. They talked it out and decided together that Colin would take a knee instead of sitting down on the bench during the national anthem. To be clear, Nate Boyer did want him to stand. Colin did want to get his point across, so the two men came to a compromise. Nate explained in an interview, in my opinions and in my experience, kneeling has never been in our history really seen as a disrespectful act. I mean, people kneel when they get knighted. You kneel to propose to your wife, and you take a knee to pray. And soldiers often take a knee in front of a fallen brother's grave to pay respects. So I thought, if anything, besides standing, that was the most respectful way to do it. But of course, that's just my opinion. Here's the issue. It seemed like nobody else shared that opinion. Everybody else seemed to feel like taking a knee was somehow more disrespectful than sitting down. And what sucks even worse is that still, nobody addressed the actual issue. This is very frustrating to a person like me, bro. I'm sitting back like, dog, the issue. Instead, one side set out to make Kaepernick out to be an angel, the other side made him out to be the devil, when the truth is the same as it is with every other human on the planet. You somewhere in between. And it's completely irrelevant when all I'm trying to say is, hey, look at this. Regardless, this created a media frenzy and unfortunately divided people even more. Instead of both sides empathizing with each other and understanding where each side is coming from and trying to actually reduce police brutality, everybody just drew a line in the sand, refused to open themselves up to the other side's view, and made absolutely zero progress. In 2017, Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers parted ways. Little did we know that he'd never be on another NFL roster. In September of that year, well before Lamar Mania, the Ravens were looking to sign Colin, but it never happened. Ray Lewis, who was involved in the process, was asked about this on Inside the NFL. Here's what he had to say. When me and Steve Bisciotti were talking, this is what we were talking about, Judy. We were talking about giving this kid an opportunity to get back in the National Football League. Look, this is what I wanted to share with people. I have been fighting for this kid behind the table like nobody has. I've never been against Colin Kaepernick, but I am against the way he's done it. Then his girl goes out and put out this racist gesture and doesn't know we're in the back office about to try to get this guy signed. Steve Bisciotti has said it himself. How can you crucify Ray Lewis when Ray Lewis is the one calling for Colin Kaepernick? When the Ravens called me, it was to say yes or no. We were gonna close the deal to sign him. Steve Bisciotti said, I want to hear Colin Kaepernick speak to let me know he wants to play football. And it never happens because the picture comes up the next day. They then asked Ray, so if not for that tweet, you think it would be a Baltimore Raven? Ray answers. Then he's flying him to Baltimore, and I'm sitting with all three of them, and we're all having a conversation about bringing Colin Kaepernick in. Yo, we wasn't in a room, so we really don't know if it went down the way Ray Lewis says it went down. What we do know is Cap's girl did tweet this. I mean, bro, the tweet is still up. And yo, no matter what side you on, bro, even if you on Cap's side, you can't tell me that if you own the team and you was thinking about bringing the man in, and then this girl tweeted this about you, that you would hire him. Like, you wouldn't. If we honest, we can agree on that. That's just one situation though. Now, later on, John Elway did come out and confuse the hell out of people when he said this. Colin had his chance to be here. We offered him a contract, he didn't take it. Okay, here's some context. In 2016, when Colin Kaepernick was still with the 49ers, the Broncos jumped in and offered to trade for him. The only issue was they wanted Colin to basically restructure his contract. He was slated to make $11.9 million that year. The Broncos wanted to pay him $7 million. So essentially he would have had to leave $5 million on the table. Colin refused. Now, how you feel about that? Maybe you feel he should have took the job due to the circumstances. Maybe you felt he shouldn't have took the job because they was trying to shortchange him. Look, I don't know. I don't really know what was right or what was wrong in that situation, but that's what happened. But the way Elway said it made it sound like it was after the whole situation took place. He was without a job. They reached out and he was like, nah. Didn't exactly go like that. All right, so at this point, we do have to acknowledge that Colin botched the Ravens situation. Would they have absolutely brought him in? We don't know, but I do know that that tweet made sure they wasn't gonna bring him in. The Broncos situation, it wasn't after he was fully released from the 49ers, but he did have knowledge at that point that the Niners were gonna cut him, or he was gonna have to opt out of that contract. So maybe taking that pay cut and going to the Broncos wasn't the perfect opportunity. It was still an opportunity that in a perfect world could have taken advantage of. In October 2017, Colin would file a grievance against the NFL for collusion, saying the owners basically came up with the scheme to not hire him or blackball him to keep him out of the league. Lots of people argued against this notion, saying Colin was washed and that was why he didn't get picked up. But his last year's stats in San Fran say otherwise. He played 11 games in 2016, coming off hella injuries and surgeries. He still threw for 2,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. To compare, that's a better year than Ryan Tannehill had during his last year in Miami. But of course, Ryan still got another job. So the real reason that Cap didn't get picked up was not because he's washed. What is the real reason? Well, there's several. Let's just keep it a buck. Some, not all, some of the NFL owners are bigoted. Others just didn't want to deal with the media storm. And yo, if they would have signed Colin Kaepernick during that time, or even now, the media storm is coming. And it sucks, but I do understand an owner not wanting to have to deal with that. Also, Cap and his circle were hella unpredictable during this time. We see draft picks get labeled for not loving football or not being a football guy if they got any interest. Like if a dude like to read books, oh, he's not a football guy. It's ridiculous, but it's super common in the NFL. Because Colin obviously had other interests during this time, a lot of owners and teams weren't sold on the fact that they was going to basically be able to control him with his contract and his job. That lack of control is scary for an NFL owner. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. It just is. It just is the reality. A month after the grievance, Nike launched an ad campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick. Some people were furious. By 2019, Colin settled the collusion case with the NFL, but as a part of the agreement, could not disclose the amount. Yo, at that point, I honestly thought the situation was over, and I thought Colin Kaepernick had won. He'd created a platform now where he didn't need the NFL. Sadly, he had to sacrifice one of the best paying and highest profile jobs in the country as an NFL quarterback, but he did get the settlement bread and he got the Nike deal. So there is some income to supplement there. So I thought all things considered, he landed on his feet. And I honestly felt the whole thing was a success. I mean, you got the NFL dropping videos like this now. He had to pay the price for it, but the message did get through, which was the stated goal initially. In my opinion, he created an environment where Jay-Z could slide in and position himself to maybe eventually become the first black NFL owner. This is a chess piece that couldn't have advanced as quickly without Colin Kaepernick. Another huge win in my opinion. Dude was doing a ton of good. He donated millions of dollars to charities like Helping Oppressed Mothers Endure, groups like Black Veterans for Social Justice, Appetite for Change, and tons more. He donated $25,000 a piece to 4 groups per month. That's $100,000 every single month until he hit $1 million. That's a huge deal and an athlete affecting change. Some of the organizations was real small and thought they was actually getting pranked when they got the donations. Some were larger. He spread it around, man. He even held free Know Your Rights camps and helped kids trace back their origins so that they did not run into the same issues that Colin ran into. Here's a quote from him on why that's so important. "I thought I was from Milwaukee. I thought my ancestry started in slavery. And I was taught in school that we were all supposed to be grateful just because we aren't slaves. But what I was able to do was trace my ancestry and DNA lineage back to Ghana, Nigeria, the Ivory Coast. And I saw my existence was more than just being a slave. It was of an African man. We had our own civilizations, and I want you to know how high the ceiling is for our people." So as you can see, the man was accomplishing a ton, and it all started with that one gesture. With that said, I definitely did not agree with the way Colin handled himself in every situation during his time. These socks, I don't really get it. I'm not sure why he decided to wear these. Again, antagonizing the police for what? Like, what does that accomplish? Still, it appeared Colin had that itch to finish his career. And the way he handled this next situation is the thing that I'm going to be critical about. In November of last year, Colin Kaepernick and the NFL were moving towards scheduling a workout, a tryout for NFL teams just to see where Colin was physically and if we're being honest, the NFL playing some control games. Kind of make dude jump through some hoops. You'll see what I mean in a second. But there's no doubt about it, the whole workout situation seemed shaky from the very start. It felt like a PR trap, and I think it was a PR trap. My problem is, he walked right into the trap. First off, Colin only had 2 hours to accept the deal. Second, they let him know only 4 days in advance. Colin's team requested the workout be held on Tuesday like most NFL workouts, since that's the day that most GMs and scouts are free. The NFL denied that and instead insisted that the workout be held on a Saturday, which happened to be the same day that most scouts would be watching the Georgia-Auburn game and other games as well. The NFL had a bunch of weird rules. It also was a closed workout. They would not allow any media in. Also, Colin himself could not bring any cameras in. The only cameras that were allowed to be there, and the only people that were allowed to be there, were NFL cameras and NFL representatives. That feels like a setup because they own and control all the footage, and it's basically just their word against yours on how well or bad you actually did. But Colin was in a tough spot because if he wanted to play in the NFL, he couldn't turn this down. Colin was at a major disadvantage, but needed to make the most of the crappy hand he had been dealt in that situation. Look, we all knew this was a setup, but careful planning could have turned this whole thing around. Instead, he waited to the last minute and changed the location. What was that gonna accomplish? I'm just not sure what the goal is there. The reason Colin and his team gave was this. They said the NFL process wasn't legitimate. He wanted a transparent and open process. He's right, it wasn't legitimate, it was definitely shaky. However, you already agreed to the workout at this point. So once you've agreed to the workout, you need to come up with a better plan. Like, to just change the location, bro, the scouts are just gonna not come to the new place. And if they do, the few that make it, NFL owners not gonna sign you, if that's the goal. Maybe that wasn't the goal. It's like, say I was trying to get a job at, I don't know, Chase Bank, and they called the interview at a stupid time, didn't give me no notice, but I agreed and said I was gonna be there. Then 30 minutes before the interview, I'm like, you know what? Instead of the place that you said we was gonna do this interview at, meet me over here instead. Do you think in any situation I'm getting hired at Chase? Of course not. That's how I saw that situation. And like, again, I feel like he don't even need the NFL. But if he feel like he does, and he's going through this because he wants to get back in the league, then you're gonna have to play by their busted ass rules. Him changing the location obviously pissed off a bunch of scouts who flew out to come and watch him. Only a fraction of the scouts that came down actually made it to the second location. But it honestly didn't matter at that point. The NFL had won the PR battle because these are the optics, okay? Here's how it looks. We gave you a chance to do a workout. You agreed to come to the workout, then you didn't show up to the workout. You see what I'm saying? So from the NFL standpoint, they can sit back like, he walked right into the trap, and he kind of did. Again, there was no guaranteed win for Colin Kaepernick in this situation. The NFL held most of the leverage. However, here's how I thought he could have handled this situation that would have got him the best result. Okay, so hear me out. You find out about the workout 4 days in advance. Okay, cool. On day 3 or day 2 before the workout, you go to any field, bring receivers, do a dry run of the exact workout that you're supposed to be doing. They said it's gonna be a combine style, pro day style thing. Put a workout together. Bring your camera crew, film the entire workout, and post that onto the internet the day before your NFL workout. What the hell that's gonna do, FlemLo? Well, again, this is a PR battle. Now the internet has footage of you going through pretty much the exact same workout. I can see that the arm strength is still there. I can see that the velocity is still there. I can see the athleticism is still there. You look like you're in great shape. You can prove to the public every single thing that you can prove in shorts and a t-shirt in your own video. Now, when you go to do the NFL workout, if they try to jerk you, which they might, and say, oh no, he came in, he was out of shape, he looked bad, can't throw, that's not gonna fly, because the public just saw a workout from earlier this week. No, he can still play. He might have had a bad day in your workout, I don't know, but obviously the man is rusty. He ain't played in like 3 years, but he still got the physical tools to be on somebody's team. So them trying to come out and tell us that he doesn't have it anymore based on what they saw him do in shorts and a t-shirt, we know that's BS. They lose the PR battle. That might not necessarily get him his job back, but instead of falling for the PR trap, you have now turned the trap around. Okay, now that's bad press for the NFL. Can they survive it? Sure, but they brought this whole thing on themselves, and in that situation, That is the second best case scenario for Colin Kaepernick. Best case scenario obviously being he gets signed to a team. Maybe that's not a perfect solution, but again, it's far better than changing the location right before the workout is set to start and wearing a t-shirt that many of the cats that you want to hire you will find offensive. He also had a moment to speak after the workout concluded, and he could have done a very long interview at the end of it and really explained his positioning, what he'd been up to, what his current goals were, etc. Let us know something. Instead, he used that moment to just antagonize the NFL owners, which again, I would not give two damns about if you weren't telling me that you want to get back in the league. If you want to get back in the league, that damn sure ain't the way to do it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just not congruent with what you're telling me your goal is here. This confuses me and I can't rock with that. It later came out that Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, and others had kind of stuck their necks out to get Cap that job interview, and they were actually livid that he did not show up. He could have easily put the onus back on the NFL right there, but a bad chess move, he made a mistake, it happens. That does not change or take away from any other thing that he's done, but I did not like that situation. At the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick is just a man, and perfect men don't exist. However, flawed heroes do. Colin was compelled to use his platform in an attempt to bring attention to injustice in his country. It took courage, strength, and a major sacrifice in order to do that. The way he chose to do it to some made him a villain, and being offended by that is fair. Hell, I ain't get the socks, I ain't get some of the tweets, I ain't get the workout change, but I did get the intention of the original act. And ultimately, I think he made a difference. I think he succeeded in many ways. And I greatly appreciate the sacrifice that he had to make in order to bring attention to something that affects me, that affects my family, that will affect my son one day. It's an important issue, and I'm not sure what was the perfect way for him to address it, but I'm very grateful that he did. Regardless to where you stand, hopefully this shed some light on the situation, or maybe gave you a different perspective on the whole thing. So as you've seen in the video, I'll always have love for Colin Kaepernick for attempting to bring attention to a situation that desperately needed it. But I do feel that at certain points, his strategy could have been better in order to get the absolute most out of the opportunity he created by kneeling during the anthem. That's where today's video sponsor comes in. If you want to maximize your effectiveness and efficiency in 2020, Audible always has the perfect audiobook to help with that process. So to get you going, Audible is issuing a challenge to current and new members. You want to finish 3 audiobooks by March 3rd. If you can complete that challenge, you get a $20 Amazon credit. It's really that simple. 3 books by March 3rd, $20. And they're gonna help by tracking your progress. A book that I recommend to get you started is 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Now, Robert Greene is one of my favorite authors. I love the research and the historical stories that he tells in order to get a point across in all of his books. He wrote 48 Laws of Power, The 50th Law, Mastery, The Laws of Human Nature, etc. But to go along with this video, I felt 33 Strategies of War was the most applicable. The book is basically a guide to the super subtle social games that are played every single day and how to best navigate those. He uses war stories to illustrate the point, and the stories are as fascinating as the lessons that they illustrate. Become an Audible member and you can choose 3 titles every single month. So 1 audiobook and 2 Audible exclusives that you can only listen to on Audible. Now, Audible members also get access to exclusive guided fitness programs to help keep your fitness goals up, and you can listen on any device, anytime, anywhere, at the crib, on the road, at the gym, whatever. Now, if you happen to get an audiobook that you don't love, you can exchange it for another one. And it's dope because you keep your entire audiobook library forever, even if you cancel. So start listening today with a 30-day free trial. Choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals for the free. So visit audible.com/FlemLo or text FlemLo to 500-500. Again, that's audible.com/FlemLo or text FlemLo to 500-500. Thanks to Audible once again for sponsoring the video. I'm gonna catch y'all next time, fellas. 1.
Yeah, I'm no quitter, 'cause I'ma go